Hi everybody, welcome to the People Gallery. Look, there's Alessandro.
Hello, hello, Charlie. Welcome. I leave it. I
Hi,
leave it to
Alessandro.
Hi Charlie. Thanks for coming on tonight, and thanks for everyone who's tuned in. So that G and Luca, some pizza would be nice, to come watch my first live stream. And yeah, really appreciate Charlie being my very first guest.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I think this will be really easy because Charlie is like really easy to talk to, and she's also drinking alcohol right now.
I am drinking.
She's not.
No,
She's
she's-
not.
she's
She's
juice.
drinking juice.
It's juice.
She's drinking juice.
It's only juice. We dissociate from that, and it's only juice in a wine glass.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's mummy's juice.
We totally dissociate from alcohol.
It's dirty water in a wine glass. I at work, because at work when you are in an office, when you're not like seconded to being at home forever, I can never find clean glasses, so I drink water from wine glasses at work, and people come to my desk and they're like, "What's going on, Alyssa? Is today a hard day?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is. Like, you're here. I'm like, go away." But yeah,
I totally relate.
but they're the only glasses that are clean, because people don't think that, oh yeah, this is a glass and it's clean and I can
It's
use
still
it as
a vessel. You can use it for water.
It's a vessel. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I just needed a vessel to hold my water.
True story.
We're like the same. We use it a vessel for water holding.
Yes.
How's your day been? You mentioned that you've been studying. Sounds
Yes,
fun.
so obviously with all this coronavirus craziness, my classes have been moved to online. So I'm studying my diploma of nursing. It's only my first year, but yeah, I do 3 days a week at this stage. It makes it a lot easier to juggle being a mum and having school work, and also I was working before all this happened as well, so it made that a lot easier to juggle, just having all of the studying in 3 sort of days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, and so I sort of sign in at 9:30 in the morning to Skype or whatever they want me to use, and then we kind of study until 3, and it's pretty hard being in front of the laptop for that amount of time, but especially when you're taking in all the new information. But I enjoy what I'm studying, so that makes it bearable because it's not boring.
So is this your first semester in nursing?
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
Who's that with?
I'm doing it with Kangan Institute.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically a TAFE, which provides this diploma of nursing. It's I would say it's an accelerated course, so it's done over 2 years, and at the end of the 2 years, I will have done like 400 or something hours of placement. So my first lot of placement starts next month, actually, a month
really
pretty much from
soon.
today.
That's
Yeah, I know.
Really accelerated in 2
Yeah.
years, because like at my uni that I went to, they had nursing too, and their course was with ours, because we all learn like the same health sciences stuff in the first 2 years. That's the first 2 years, just like we share it. Then we split off in third year. So that's full on. Does that mean that you have to go to uni afterwards as well?
Yeah, so at the end of this course, I'll be qualified as what's called an enrolled nurse or a Division 2 nurse, which is essentially a nurse that works underneath a registered nurse. So our scope of practice, what we're able to do for a patient, is less, but it's a lot more than it used to be. We used to just be the people that would change the bedpans or, change out the catheter, bring people food, clean the sheets, all that sort of thing. But now there's a lot more that we can do. We can administer medication. We can have up to 4, sometimes even 6, depending on, staffing. We can have that many patients sort of in our care. And we can an enrolled nurse can pretty much work in any field of healthcare. So I'm looking to become a midwife. So after I'm done with this course, I will eventually complete my degree in nursing and midwifery and become a midwife. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's a good specialty to be in. like I was just doing a woodworking course before COVID stopped all of that, and there
Yeah.
was a midwife in that course, and she would be just working not her own hours, but she'd have her own private clients, and
Mm.
then like as soon as she get called, like at 2 a.m., she'll go deliver a baby, and then she'll go home, sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Like even though like you have your 2 and 4 a.m. calls, you still have your time
Yeah.
off otherwise, and it's a bit
Definitely.
flexible in a way. But that's good.
And
Is that what you
it's
wanted to do, or did you want to do it in a hospital?
well, it's such a big umbrella term, midwife. Um, and I think that the main reason that I wanted to go into it, I was actually almost a paramedic when I fell pregnant with my son. So the reason that I want to go into this is because my priorities changed a bit, and obviously I fell in love with babies. um, and the fact that midwifery is such a massive umbrella term for somebody that basically supports women through pregnancy and after pregnancy and during labour, um, I think that I would love to definitely deliver babies in a hospital for a while. You have to as part of your finishing your degree. That's part of the placement that comes with doing a degree. But eventually, I'd love to be a maternal child health nurse, which is basically a midwife that looks after the mums and bubs after they've been born. So actually, for the first 4 years of a child's life, the mum will go in sort of regular, maybe quarterly intervals. Like you go a lot more at the beginning, but after that, you go every sort of 6 months to visit what's called a maternal child health nurse, and they weigh your baby or your toddler. They make sure your toddler is sort of meeting all of the developmental milestones that they should be meeting, and that's really what I would love to be doing with myself when I'm 50, 60 years old. But at the moment I'm 22, so I would love to be in the high energy environment of delivering babies for a while. But that's what I love about, like I said, the midwifery field, is that there's so much that you can choose to do with it. You can go into neonatal nursing and look after the preemie babies. You can go into prenatal nursing and look after mums while they're pregnant, all that sort of stuff. There's so much that you can choose to do. You can specialize, and I think it's just awesome. Like, get your foot in the door and you can pretty much do anything you want.
Yeah, that sounds like you are really passionate about it. How long until you can get to the point where you start doing the baby stuff?
So just in hypothetically, say I was to finish this course at the end of 2021 that I'm doing now, I think I'd have to do it's another year, and then of a degree, and then you start doing placement. So you'd be placed in a hospital, and basically start working as a student nurse, a student midwife, underneath other midwives. So at first you would really just be observing births. And then I think you need to follow someone from essentially conception right through until they give birth as part of your degree. So you need to find a pregnant person and sort of prey on them. Um, and then I think you also need to have a certain number of babies that you have had an active part in delivering them before you can become a midwife. But yeah, so I would say probably I'm looking at another maybe 3.5 years before I'd get to that point, if I decided to go straight from this course to do a university degree. But I'm not sure that I will, because we've got some plans maybe to have another bub, maybe to move over to New Zealand. So it
Wow,
might not be as linear as that, but in theory, yeah, about 3.5 more years.
that's all exciting.
Hmm.
So how are you finding the first semester? I'm assuming it's all biology and anatomy.
um, Not all, but yes, a large portion of it is. Like, I'm sitting at my school desk right now, and in front of me is just so much notes, so many different ways to remember the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves and the circulatory system, and how the brain functions. And I've got everything just stuck up in front of me, so I'm a little bit oversaturated with it all. But
Have
it's
you?
also um, studying about the Australian healthcare system, and about so our first placement is in aged care. So at the moment we have a unit that we're doing which is implement and monitor the care of an older person. So we're learning about what happens to the body when it ages and stuff like that. So we've got sort of the boring side of things, I guess you could call it. So like we've got legal and ethical, we've got the Australian healthcare system, and then we've got things like confirmed physical health status, which is our anatomy and physiology unit, which is interesting, but it's hard. So, it's a really good balance, I think.
Yeah, I remember when I was studying health sciences, we had I don't remember what it's called, but a thing to remember the cranial nerves. It was like, ooh, 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 to touch and feel something, something. Oh, I can't say the next bit because that's rude.
I know exactly the one you're talking about. That I have that one written down, but I also have a PG one. It is to take a family vacation, go Vegas after hours.
Oh yeah, that's good.
But I know the rude one you're talking about, but I will not divulge.
Yeah, to touch and feel someone's something.
And yeah,
but like I didn't remember it, so then I didn't really do that well with that.
Well, you remember the first part. That's pretty impressive for someone that hasn't like looked back at it, really.
Ooh, to touch is pretty easy because it's like what, occipital,
olfactory,
olfactory,
oculometer, trochleo, trigeminal, etc.
Yeah, but you're reading off the wall though.
True.
My neuroscience lecturer just lives behind this house.
You should yell it louder, be like, I remember.
It's because of you. No, by the time that I had him full time, he was having a baby, so we never saw him. But yeah, partially because of him.
Fairly common.
Well, have you lost a few lecturers because of they've all gone on leave to have babies as well?
Well, not just having babies, but like whether they get kind of either pregnant or like a family member overseas gets pregnant and they have to like go and visit that person when they give birth. It's happened like 3 times and we're only like 7 weeks in.
And they're not even allowed to travel though.
Yeah, well, this was before all of that went down.
So. Lucky them. So how are you finding the coronavirus would have been good for you and your study and looking after a baby at the moment?
There's definitely positives and negatives. I think a lot of people are probably finding that. I was very skeptical, very anxious about the prospect of continuing studying online.
Because you have to look after your son full time?
Well, that, but also I've done it before. I've done a course online and I didn't complete that course because I couldn't self-motivate. I really, really struggled with that self-motivate part of it. With the self-control, 100%, yeah. So I was doing, like I told you before, I was doing my paramedics course. And I would just put stuff off and just put stuff off and put stuff off and put stuff off. And there were no online classes. It was purely up to me to contact one of my trainers in order to get help if I needed it. And I just didn't want to make a phone call. It was a real shame because I was literally 6 months away from getting my diploma and I decided to drop out. And then shortly afterwards I was pregnant. So, I was very nervous when they told me that all of this would be going online. I was even emailing asking if I could defer until next year. I was stressing. Obviously, I didn't really want Sterling, my little one, to be in daycare as much because I didn't want him to be to be at risk. And so I was like, oh, how am I going to manage little one at home, all this stuff. But then once it started and I sort of had my first day of classes online, it was manageable. It was manageable because my partner, who's now my fiance, lost his job. Thank you. Can I ring?
Oh, show it. Pause it on the screen. Very
it's not going to show it very well.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that actually. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, so he's able to help out, he was able to help out a huge amount more. He's back at work now, which is a relief. But, we're managing and it's definitely been nice to not have to do my, hour and 10-minute commute every morning.
Wow, that's ages.
Yeah, because the campus is in Moonee Ponds and I'm obviously on south side of Melbourne. So it's basically going into the city and then out again, out from the city again. And while I didn't mind the commute, it's nice not to have to do that. It's nice to be able to sort of, get up, make myself a cup of coffee and come sit down at my desk and just wait for class to start rather than having to, get dressed. I can do it in my pajamas if I want to. So there's definitely pros to it, and also, being able to be close to my little one is nice. Obviously it gets a lot. He's a toddler now. He's almost 18 months. So nearly a year and a half, and he is running absolutely rampant.
So he can use his legs and he's free. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a little bit harder for
And
you.
the last week, he's learned how to say no. So everything is just no. I will not be doing that.
Interesting. That's cute. So how has it been while you've been studying and having Sterling at home?
Luckily, his nap time falls during at least the majority of my first and second, my classes. So
But your classes go all day, like you said, from 9:30 to 3 or something.
they do. But I can generally have one earphone in. He just watches the Wiggles, or Shane is home, or he's at daycare. He is still at daycare 2 days a week. So when he's at daycare, that's obviously a lot of pressure off Shane and I, to sort of, we can have a day. I'm studying when he's at daycare, but Shane can have some time, play a video game. It's a really nice way for us to diffuse, because for a while there we did have him home all the time, and it's tough. I admire anyone that's a stay-at-home mum or a stay-at-home dad that can cope having kids home all the time, because I know I literally can't.
No, I think a lot of parents can relate to, and particularly now when people have to work from home and act as a teacher as well. Yeah.
It's definitely difficult.
Well, that's good. It sounds like you're managing pretty well.
Mm,
How are
Yeah.
you coping with him going to daycare? Like you said, is there was concerns about being safe during COVID.
Yeah. Look, our daycare has been really awesome. They have put a lot of measures in place to basically protect the kids and the families and the staff that work there. So every morning that we take him in, he gets his temperature checked before he's allowed to enter. We're not even allowed to go into the centre at all. Only the babies and the staff members are. So it's very much a controlled environment. All the staff members have their temperature checked every day as well. So it's, we drop a bag off on Monday morning and it gets returned to us on Wednesday, which is his last day of enrolment for the week. So it's very much a controlled environment, and it seems to be working really well for them. So I think that I was initially a little anxious still having him in, but I really do trust them. I trust that they would inform us if something wasn't right. So yeah, I've put my trust and my faith in them, and I'm not anxious anymore at all. He thrives being at daycare. He has little friends now. He's old enough to sort of have made these relationships, which is really beautiful to see. And he absolutely loves being there. We don't have a backyard. We only have a tiny little balcony that we've put some AstroTurf onto. So on the days when it is raining and we can't really go outside or anything, he's stuck inside all day, which is no fun for a toddler who loves being outside. He loves climbing on stuff. He loves being on, walls and picking up leaves. But at daycare, they have massive outdoor areas that are, covered, and he can be outside even if it's raining. So, I think it's really important for his mental health, even at 18 months old, that he has that time at daycare and that time away from us.
You can see that when you speak about him, you're very excited, obviously, of him, like most parents are. But I guess the premise of this conversation was, you were a young mum. You were 20 when you had him. So it'd be interesting. And you were also studying at the time. So was this a planned thing to have Sterling when you were 20?
No. It was probably the most unplanned thing. Where to start? Well, most of my late teenage years, I was gay, exclusively seeing women. I, in fact, still consider myself to be a lesbian. But strangely enough, I am in a committed, very committed relationship with a man who just happens to be the father of my child. And oh my God, the amount of times I've tried to explain this to people and people just don't seem to get it. And to be perfectly honest, I don't quite understand what happened either. But after probably 5 or 6 years of, mostly just dating women, dating girls, I met my partner, and yeah, something just must have clicked for us. And what was a friendship became more than that. And I mean, I fought it all the way. I really did. I was struggling. There were people around me that did not approve of the match at all. I lost friends over it. Luckily I've been able to mend a lot of those bridges, but I did have a lot of rifts because of this relationship. It was very much all signs point to no, but we went for it anyway and ended up moving out of our share house into an apartment, just the two of us together. And that was only after 4 months of seeing each other.
Yeah, that's a big commitment.
Yeah, it was. And I think, we really, in all honesty, the move initially was definitely one of convenience. We were living in the northern suburbs, and we moved into the CBD of Melbourne, into the middle of Melbourne, because we were both working there at the time. So it made more sense for the two of us that were working really long hours. He's a chef, I was working in a nightclub. It made sense for us to just get an apartment in the city. We could walk to and from work. It was easy. So we thought, let's do it. We'll just do it. Whatever, we can always move back if we break up, doesn't matter. So we took the leap, we moved, and 2 weeks later I was pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you were studying at the same time?
So I was definitely on my last legs of studying. I pretty much hadn't done any work for a couple of months. And it was getting to the point where I was going to have to go on my final placement to hopefully finish this course and actually start doing. Sorry, it was going on my final prac, so we would have to go to the school physically, which was in Queensland. And complete a bunch of practical assessments with trainers that they would show us how to drive an ambulance, all that sort of thing. And then we would have to start placement hours. You had to do 800 hours of placement at music festivals and stuff like that, working with other paramedics. And I was so close to starting that, and I just hadn't done any work in months. And I there are probably a lot of reasons why that kind of just crumbled for me. But I think the main one was that it just didn't feel right. It was definitely, I knew that I wanted to be in the healthcare field. But yeah, I just think my heart wasn't in it anymore. There'd been a couple of people that I was doing the course with that we'd had just unfortunate encounters, I suppose. And there was a lot of stuff that came up for me during that course that just made me lose my passion for it, lose my drive for it. And so, honestly, it couldn't have come at a more perfect time, me falling pregnant, because I was a bit of a lost sheep. Working in the nightclub, I was going down a pretty dark path with, drugs, alcohol, and it completely turned my life around getting pregnant. And yeah, my life hasn't honestly never been better. Like, it might be such a cliche of a story, but I happened to find this person who just happened to be a guy who was, he's male me. And yeah, like, as honestly, as cheesy as it sounds, we fell in love, we had a baby together, now we're engaged. It's like, is this Disney? I don't know. But yeah, it's been great.
Well, you do love Disney.
I do.
Yeah, show us your arm. Disney
Well,
arm.
well, Pixar and Disney, but yeah.
So thanks for sharing with us that that you consider yourself a lesbian. Can you talk about
Yeah.
that, like how you came out and when you realized that's what your preference was?
Hmm. Okay, so I mean, look, the way that my mum raised me was very much non-judgmental. There was never any, oh, you'll get married one day, this, that, and the other. That was never. She never talked about that with me. She was a single mum, so I never saw her in a relationship. My dad wasn't in the picture. He is now. He's very much a close friend of mine now. We're tight. But, he wasn't in the picture. I never saw my mum in a relationship with anyone. And so I never felt any pressure to like one particular gender or the other. I never felt like I'd be judged for who I was seeing. So when I kind of got to the age that, you start to actually see people, actually date people. I mean, I dated some boys, but really it was, I considered myself bi. I would openly tell people I was bi for years, since probably year 5. I liked girls and boys. And I mean, look, I got my fair share of bullying for it, for sure, but whatever, I didn't care. Like, that was just who I was. And then I think it was probably year 11. So I was, 17, and I was in a relationship with a guy, and it felt weird, and we had discussed the possibility of losing our virginities to one another. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't actually have any real sexual physical attraction to this person. Like, he's a very handsome young man, very handsome 17-year-old boy, like, for sure. But I had this weird realization that this was not for me. And I ended up telling 2 of my closest friends at the time. I ended up coming out to them by playing hangman on a whiteboard in the classroom.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, for some reason, like, I was scared to tell them, even though I went to, a really open-minded high school, and everyone had colored hair, and everyone was, one gender or the other, or all 3 genders, or like whatever, everyone was special at that school. And no one got judged for anything, and it was great. But I still had that fear. It was still a fear of not being accepted, which is so strange considering how I was raised, the school that I was at, the friends I had. I was still scared. So I can only imagine what it's like for some people that, that don't have that kind of supportive background, that supportive network. But I was really blessed, and obviously they accepted me, and they honestly weren't all that surprised. And my mum wasn't at all either.
Interesting. Why is that?
Yeah, mum. She said she pretty much knew from the time I was about 2 or 3 that there was something there, because I don't know. I used to dress up in my granddad's clothes when we went over there for Christmas. I'd put on his tie and tie it up, and I was always a tomboy, and I would always be, the husband when they played, husbands and wives in kindergarten. And yeah, I think, there's pictures of me dressed up as a bride, but I liked all dressing up. But I definitely played the daddy more than I played the mummy.
That's like that song, that guy that sings that thrift shop song. Is it Macklemore? And he sings a song about, I think, him being gay. It's like, yeah, when I was a kid, I used to dress up in my mum's clothes, and I liked to be neat and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was just little signs, but I mean, my mum knew I was pregnant before I did too. There's just something about a mother's intuition.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, basically, I came out to my mum. She wasn't surprised. Came out. No one has ever given me flack for it.
But then they gave you flack for when you went into a straight relationship.
Definitely. it wasn't so much the fact that I was going into a straight relationship, it was who I was going into a straight relationship with.
Okay. That's different.
But I think there was definitely an element of why are you, going back on years of what you've been telling people for someone that isn't worth it. But you know what? Doesn't matter. There was baggage. He was an ex of, a friend of mine from many years ago, and she didn't have any problem with it, but her sister did.
So it was a bit, and that was more a personal thing then.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think, look, we've mended those bridges now, because the same people that had an issue with the relationship also had an issue with me getting pregnant and deciding to keep the baby. They went off about how I was impulsive and, I would get tattoos just for the sake of getting tattoos, and, that I never thought things through, and that this was a human life and I wasn't fit to be a mother yet, all this sort of thing. So I have definitely faced judgment, but I haven't let it faze me. It definitely tore me up inside for a really long time, but I've been able to forgive and forget a lot of that stuff. And people have the people have shown me that they have come around to why it wasn't right for them to say what they did. So yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've learned through getting into a relationship with a man and becoming a young mum is that, yes, people may say some hurtful things, and people will say stuff in the moment. They will, that you think that's unforgivable. I can never forgive them for that, ever. And I definitely felt that way. But the biggest thing that I have learned is that everyone's human. We all say stuff that we don't mean sometimes. We say stuff because we think that we are saying what that person needs to hear. We say stuff because we think we're giving sound advice, but really at the end of the day, we're projecting what we would do in that situation onto that person. And I think that's what happened 100% of the time with the people that gave me flack, was the fact that they were thinking about themselves in that situation and going, oh my God, I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to cope. I couldn't, whatever it was. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing in life, is that if you cut someone out of your life for good, that you're not giving them a chance to actually come round to the fact that they weren't right. And, they might actually come around to that and apologize and, realize that they didn't have the right to say that. And, you might get back a dear friend, which I did in this case. So.
Well, that's a good story. It sounds like, you had to go through a lot in your terms of becoming a young mum, as I'm assuming like probably most mothers would, because people, like you said, they relate to themselves, like how they would have been at that age when they were 19 or 20 and what they were like. And, if I had a baby at that age, oh my God, sort of thing. But it's really surprising that they were pressuring you to not keep a baby as well, because that's a life as well at the end of the day. Like, it's kind of opposite to what they're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that comes down to a whole other argument, which is, pro-life versus pro-choice. And I think at the end of the day, these people were pro-choice, obviously, because they were saying I should make a different choice, but they're going against their own preaching there, because at the end of the day, surely if their choice would be to not keep the baby, then I'm just as entitled to my choice to keep the baby. And I mean, I have the most beautiful, the most wonderful child that I'm raising because of that decision. And, I'm not saying that, I wouldn't have had an amazing life had I chosen the other way, but I honestly feel like I wasn't a complete person until I had my son. I'm not saying that is the case for everybody, because there are definitely people who do not want to have children. I'm not the kind of person that's going to say, oh, you might not want children now, but just wait. Like, I'm not going to say that.
That's such a bad thing to say to people.
I know, it's horrible, because there are genuinely people, especially women, because it doesn't really get said to men all that much, but women, there are women that get told that, but who genuinely have no interest in having children. That is completely fine. If I hadn't gotten pregnant, I probably would never have become a mum.
Mm.
You know, I didn't have interest. And yes, me getting pregnant changed my mind, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is the case for everyone. We all have different ideas. I have chosen to, you know, put potential career on hold temporarily and raise a family, and then I will, you know, further my career. Whereas some people would rather do it the other way around and have a baby later in life. I mean, now that I'm started, I want to have probably another one or two, and then I'll sort of get down to business once they're in school. But everyone, you know, we live in a country, we live in a world where we have the right to choose what we do with our lives, and it does, like, screw the biological clock, screw what anyone bloody tells you, because at the end of the day, you have choice. You have choice over every single thing that you do. You know, if you want to go study, you study. If you want to get a dead-end job and work that for 10 years and save up money and buy a house, you do that. No one needs to put pressure on you. No one is allowed to put pressure on you to do anything that you're not comfortable doing just because it was a societal norm 50 years ago. Like, we're so lucky to live in today's age that you can do whatever the hell you want. So yeah, as much as I have chosen to go a semi-traditional route, I'm not necessarily saying that that's going to work for everybody, because that's, you know, that is not my place to say so. But yeah.
Yeah. So if we could go back to, like, you know, you're a 19, 20-year-old girl, you're obviously nearly finished studying, about to go on placement, and then you find out you're pregnant. What was that like?
It wasn't a shock. We hadn't exactly been taking precautions. After years of being a practicing lesbian, you kind of forget a little bit about contraception, and of course, you know, no man is going to insist upon it, really. So we weren't exactly taking precautions. I would often, you know, miss a period here and there, and we would joke and say, "Oh, you know, bet we're pregnant, ha ha ha." And then this particular time, so yes, after we moved out together, I was pregnant 2 weeks later, but I didn't find out I was pregnant until 8 weeks after that. So 10 weeks after we moved in. And that was because I hadn't had my period for 7 weeks. And I went, maybe I should actually be checking this. Like, maybe we need to stop joking. I need to stop smoking. I need to stop drinking, and we need to check this. So yeah, I think it wasn't exactly a shock. We'd been playing chicken with Mother Nature, and we just happened to lose, which turned out to be a big win. But I went a bit numb. Definitely. I took the test at maybe 5:30 in the evening. Shane was at work. He would be finishing at 10 p.m. I was about to leave for work. I literally took it just before I was about to walk out of the house to go to work for a shift that would start at 7 p.m. and I was working until 7 a.m. It was a 12-hour shift at the nightclub. And it came up like pregnant 3+ weeks, and I was like,
oh, I can tell you how many weeks.
Yeah, it was one of those like clear blue,
Wow.
the only pregnancy test that tells you how many weeks. Yeah, it was one of those. And I was just numb, and I kind of just started to laugh, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to Shane, and I just said, I'm going to work, we'll talk about this later.
Wow.
And then I left and I turned my phone off.
So you accepted it. You weren't just like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't know what my decision was at that point. It was definitely because I know that obviously it is my body, and at the end of the day it is my choice, but I wanted to give Shane at least a little bit of a say. So, I did that night at work. I got home 7 a.m. I woke Shane up and I said, look, I'm going to sleep on this day, because obviously I had to go to sleep because I was very tired and stressed. So I went, I was like, I'm going to sleep on this. When I wake up this afternoon, we can have a chat. And I think by the time I had, had a chance to sleep on it. We hadn't even really talked about it. And I woke up and I just said, look, this is my decision. I want to keep this baby. I know we'd kind of said that if this ever did happen for whatever reason that we wouldn't, but I want to keep this baby. And I genuinely gave him a choice. I said, look, I love you very much. And I would love to be able to raise this baby with you, but I also understand that we've been together for like 4 months. Like, we hardly know each other. You still want to go traveling. You've just got back from a year overseas. You've only just met me. I'm 8 years younger than you. Like, there are so many reasons why this probably wouldn't be something that you would be looking for. And I completely understand that. Like, I was very much upfront and said, look, you can walk away now. That's fine. I don't expect you to have any involvement. I'm just letting you know my decision. And he pretty much just said, give me a second, and messaged his best friend saying, I'm going to be a daddy. And that was it. So we called our parents and told them, and were met with a lot of support, like a lot of support. I had only met his parents once, and it was the night that he had asked me to be his girlfriend.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and that was the night that I met my now future in-laws. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but it's again, from start to finish, it's been quite fairy tale. And I keep kind of waiting to wake up sometimes. Like, I must ask him about 50 times a day if he loves me, because I'm just like, surely this is a dream. Like, surely this can't be happening, that in less than 3 years of my life I can be engaged, have a baby, and have met the love of my life. Like, surely that's not possible. But I guess it did. Not to sound smug or anything, but go me.
That's really good. That's a really good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask how old Shane was. So yeah, being 28, yes. That's pretty mature to be able to make that decision, and he's also lived a little bit of life as well.
And I mean, look, I think his whole thing was, look, I'm nearly 30. Like, if I'm not going to have kids now, then when am I going to have them? Because, we are young parents, and we are exhausted. I can't imagine
at any age.
I know, but that's the thing. I can't imagine being in my 30s or even late 30s, like some parents are these days, and be dealing with a toddler right now. Like, I hear my friends that are in their mid to late 30s complaining about the fact that their back hurts and they can't get up in the morning, and they can't eat a hamburger because they bloody heartburn or whatever it is. Like, all these things that happen as your body starts to age. I can't imagine becoming a new parent while also going through all of that. So I think I'm very blessed to have had a baby at a time where I guess you would say I'm at my prime. But yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to doing it both ways, but I'm glad that we decided to do it the way we have.
No, it sounds like you had a good experience with that. Yeah, by having a good partner, it helps, I guess.
Yeah, well, miraculously so. I mean, I haven't done anything. This has all just been handed to me, and I can't quite fathom why or how or what I did to deserve it. I mean, I can only wish the same or similar for everyone.
Yeah, that's right. We just want to quickly have a break to say thanks to all the new followers. Say hi to the new followers. We've got Gwilly, 23. And also Gianluca says hi, Charli, as well.
Hi, Charli.
Yeah. And it sounds like Gwilly might be your friend. Because they've asked, are you talking about sexuality? We have a little bit.
Yeah, we have.
We have a little bit. And I was just about to go back to that now. So obviously when you met Shane and you started seeing each other, was that confusing for you? Like, did you think, oh, maybe I'm bisexual? Maybe
Definitely.
I am straight? Like, what do you, like, how did you go through that?
Definitely. Well, I mean, look, there was definitely a period when I started seeing Shane that I was really ashamed. I was like, I've betrayed my people. I've betrayed the LGBT community. I have I've done that one thing that we get supposedly told by, people from various religions and whatnot. You get told, oh, you just haven't found the right man yet. Like, I've literally done exactly what these people have been telling, the lesbian community for years. I have gone against everything that, I've been preaching for the last 6 years of my life. And it just it was really hard for me. I felt very guilty. I felt quite ashamed of myself. And I just think what it came down to for me was, who cares? Who cares about the label? At the end of the day, people, I'm always going to have a privilege above, my lesbian, gay, bisexual brothers and sisters now, because I am in a perceived heterosexual relationship. Like, I'm never going to face judgment for holding hands. I'm never going to, face judgment for showing any affection to my partner in public or for getting married. Like, none of that. I'm never going to face that. And I'm privileged in that sense. But I feel like now I can use that privilege to advocate for, the people that aren't. And regardless of whether the LGBT community sees me as still a lesbian, which I consider myself a lesbian, I'm not attracted to other men at all. Like, I'm just not. I just don't ever see myself with another man. Whereas women, I don't know, like, whatever.
Well, that's good though, that Shane can feel confident that you will never stray to another man.
Definitely.
But you might stray to another woman
together. So we look at pretty ladies together, and I think he definitely enjoys that part of the relationship. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, whether the LGBT community sees me as a lesbian or not doesn't actually matter, because I know I am, and I can also use my perceived privilege to actually educate people that are, not okay with the LGBT community. And I think, obviously, the people that I choose to associate myself with are not going to have a problem with that community. But, if I come across people in my life that do, through whatever it is, maybe it's a mother's group, maybe it's, a marriage celebrant, maybe, whatever. When I'm nursing, maybe it'll be someone from quite a strict religion or quite a strict ethnic background that, doesn't like anything to do with, homosexuality or, the world that we live in today, where it is okay to be who you feel like you are. I think hopefully I can use my experience to, show those people that, okay, maybe in some cases there is a right man out there for people, but majority of the time that's not the case. And, if Shane and I were, for any reason, to ever split, I would not be dating other men. I would not be going and looking for a father for my child. I would be looking for a wife, for a partner, for a female, because at the end of the day, it's the female energy, it's the female person that I'm attracted to. And it just, I don't know what it is about Shane that makes him different. I honestly can't enlighten you to that fact. I've tried, because it would have helped with a lot of my guilt and a lot of my shame. But at the end of the day, I just had to let that go because I couldn't put my finger on it.
So even though you weren't able to be attracted to the boyfriend that you had when you were in high school, you were able to be attracted to Shane.
Yeah.
Would you call it an attraction, as how you would feel for a woman?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
I think we started as friends. So I had a friendship love for him. And I think there was playful flirting. I playfully flirt with everybody, male or female. That's just my personality. That's the kind of person that I am. I'm very tactile. I like to touch, I like to hug, I like to, be an idiot with people, like, you know, whatever. I'll smack their butt if I know them well enough, like, you know, all that sort of stuff. I'm very much a flirtatious and just probably a family of a person. Yeah. I'm just, yeah, I think the fact that our relationship started out as a friendship that was quite flirty, you know, we lived in a share house. His bedroom was next to my bedroom. I used to climb out of my bedroom, climb into his bedroom window, and we would watch movies all night. You know, he sleeps naked, so I would sleep next to him and he would be naked. And it just kind of, yeah, I guess the lines just got blurred between friendship and, you know, like platonic and non-platonic relationship just got blurred. And what ended up coming out of that, you know, we started sleeping together because I think it was convenient, for starters. He was in the room next door. And yeah, you know, I enjoyed spending time with him, and I think just we were definitely friends with benefits for quite a while. You know, maybe a month and a half or something before I started to realize, I think there's more than just a friendly like for this person. I actually adore this person. You know, I want to see this person every day. I can't wait for him to get home from work. And I mean, like, what is that if it's not love?
So,
and I still feel that way. So
yeah, that definitely sounds like love. That's for sure. So would you say, you know, knowing, because I think, you know, as a straight person, I couldn't be attracted to a female, you know, and be able to sleep with them. So were you like, okay, he's a man and we're friends, so are you able to feel physically attracted to him? Like, how do you feel when you're next to him in bed and you said he was sleeping naked? Were you like, oh, this guy's hot, you know, I can physically feel attracted to him as you would if you were sleeping next to a hot chick? Or was it just because of that mental, emotional connection, and then that sort of built from there?
I definitely think it was a bit of both. I mean, look, I'm human. I can appreciate an attractive man. I can appreciate good breeding stock, as I used to call them. But I think when it came down to it, I think it was definitely the forbidden element of it as well, because I had been told by my friend that it wouldn't be okay for me to pursue anything with him, that she didn't want me to. She was like, don't, you know, I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know why you're you know, spending so much time with this guy, whatever. I don't want you to. Stop. Don't do it.
Is that the friend that had the sister that or something that had been going out with him?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the personal, emotional aspect to it.
Yeah, and I think that the what I was going through at that time, that friendship was really toxic for both like, me and for this girl.
I'm gonna hang out with him.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. It started as an FU.
Yeah.
To this girl, and I think the first time that it happened, it was very much like, you can't tell me what to do. This was a friendship that had been going on for, you know, 6 or 7 years at the time, and you know, had started in high school, you know, and it was so toxic for both of us from day one. You know, she did certain things that would, you know, knock me down, and, you know, I did certain things that would knock her down. And it was a very tumultuous friendship, very tumultuous relationship. And we had gone through periods of not talking to each other, and we would, you know, regularly fight. And we just happened to be living together because I lived, you know, her mum owned the house that we were living in, and the rent was cheap, and, you know, and everything just imploded in that year. That whole friendship fell apart. Everything fell apart. And I think I was almost looking for, I never really rebelled against my mum because she was so, you know, she's so chill. She just raised me so chill. So where that rebellious teenager came out was more in my friendships, more in not being a very loyal friend, not being a very loyal, you know, person, not listening to other people's wishes, and being quite obstinate and righteous. And I think I wasn't a good friend for a really long time. And I don't necessarily think that me sleeping with Shane was me not being a good friend, but it definitely came from that place of, trying to give the middle finger to anyone telling me to do something or not do something.
But you were
So definitely
attracted to him though, physically.
Yeah.
Interesting. And were you surprised by that as a lesbian?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, same as the thoughts
Sure.
as me as a straight person. I'd be pretty surprised if I was attracted to a girl as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, it was, I don't think it necessarily came from a physical attraction to begin with. Again, it was like that warm, fuzzy friendship feeling. I like this person, we have fun hanging out. I can't pinpoint again the moment where it became more than that. And I think that's why, it was allowed to happen, from my standpoint. If I had seen it coming, I would have shut it down. Because, what lesbian wants to fall in love with a dude? So I think I don't have an explanation. I don't have a scientific journal to be able to explain to you what happened in my brain chemistry, but there's just this particular person that's managed to find his way into my life, and we are so similar. It's ridiculous. So if anything, it's more of a narcissistic attraction because he likes the stuff that I like. He does the stuff that I do. He says the same things that I do. And, he loves the same food as me, like weird niche food. And yeah, we've just pretty much from day dot have had some really like freaky similarities. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good coupling to have. Yeah. So you also touched on like if your relationship was not to work out, you would definitely, if you were to seek a partner, you'd be seeking a female partner. Is there any so there's no doubt that you obviously love Shane, but is there ever a time in your relationship where you think, oh, I wish I was with a woman? Like that's, you still have that really deep drawn feeling? Or I wish he was a girl?
I don't know. I think there has been something refreshing about having the male energy in my relationship. And I think our relationship has changed so drastically now that we have a child. I think that our roles as mother and father are completely different from, say, boyfriend and girlfriend without a child. So I truly believe, and Shane and I have spoken about this, we're quite open with how we feel. I truly believe that had I not fallen pregnant, we would not have made it a year. I think I would have dusted it all off as a sorry mistake and moved on. And I think that there was just something about the excitement of bringing a baby into the world together, of becoming parents. We had the difficult conversation of if this didn't work out, would we co-parent? How would we manage? And yes, that's what we decided. If anything happens, we will co-parent and we will be adults about it. And I think, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that there have been times I've wished he was a girl, but, I think I miss, being in a relationship with a girl. I miss being able to pursue girls, but I mean, who doesn't somewhat miss a bit, dating and flirting and all that kind of stuff. But I also don't want to go out and do that. I don't have any interest in looking elsewhere for a relationship because I'm happy as a family now. I don't know how to explain. I don't see it as a relationship anymore. I more see it as a family unit. It's me, Shane, and Sterling. Yeah, it doesn't. Whether me and Shane are sexually attracted to each other doesn't actually matter anymore because at the end of the day, we're raising a child together, and that's what's important. And I mean, it's a bonus that yes, we are attracted to each other, and yes, we do maintain a sex life as much as you can with a toddler. But at the end of the day, even if I decided I don't really, want to be with Shane anymore, and I definitely want to start seeing women, whatever, I don't even think we'd move out of houses together. Like, I don't, yes, it would hurt temporarily. And if he decided that he wanted to see other people and that, this wasn't going to work out, then yeah, again, it would hurt. It would really hurt. It would suck just as much as any breakup would. But I think we have been so open and communicative from the start of our relationship because of the nature of how it started and how quickly it started, that I think that very quickly we would find a balance that worked for us, a new phase of the relationship that would work for us. So yeah, I think it's been such a strange series of events that have brought us together that we've had to be really good at communicating, and we've had to be very honest. And I think that's helped me with that certainty of no matter what happens, I will always have a relationship with this man, and Sterling will always have a relationship with his father, and I will always have a relationship with Sterling. And I think that's the part that's important to me. So whether or not Shane's a girl doesn't really matter to me anymore. But like I said, if we hadn't had a son, I think it definitely would have started to matter again.
Interesting. But I think, what you're saying about, because of all of these different variables, it's forced you to be transparent and improve your communication. But I think that's more of a reflection of who you both are as people, because people can still be in the same situation, get together very quickly and not have good communication skills and not be transparent, and it's just really bad. So I think that's more on you, really. So
it's nice of you to say.
Yeah, well, that's just me as a third person looking in. So if we were going to go and talk about Shane, how was that for him? Like, was that confusing for him to be,
No.
getting involved with a lesbian? Or was this like the male thought of, yes, I'm getting with a lesbian?
He describes it as his greatest victory. No, I think majority of that is joking chauvinism. He's at risk of making him sound like he's stupid, because he's not. He's a very simple person. He's very much, I like this person, I don't like this person. He's very much a straightforward person. He's not complicated about stuff. Like, literally his favorite food is a sandwich. Like, he's so easy to please.
That's so cool.
Easy to be around.
Whereas my partner's like, I need a pizza with only Italian, from Italy ingredients.
Yeah, shouldn't have picked an Italian.
And it has to be made by an Italian guy.
Oh my god.
Where the name ends in a vowel.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like a great arrangement. Yeah, a simple guy from Queensland that loves sandwiches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess so it doesn't faze him. It was just like, oh, okay, I like her, and the fact that you were lesbian or not didn't make a difference or anything like that.
Well, it didn't affect him.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I think there's definitely times where I wish he could empathize more with my situation. Like, definitely at the beginning, when I was dealing with this friend not approving, and then again dealing with losing friends when I got pregnant. I think he's so easygoing to the point where it can come off like he doesn't care. I think that would have been the only time that I maybe would have missed being in a relationship with a woman, because I think you can generalize and you can say women as a whole are a bit more empathetic than men. But at the same time, it's also his ability to be blasé about stuff and to be easygoing and to just, say, okay, but it doesn't really matter.
Drown out the noise.
It has definitely allowed me to see that at the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter all that much. Am I going to remember this in 5 years? Yeah, I'll remember it, but it's not going to affect me nearly as much as it affects me right now. So I think there's been, obviously days where the way that he reacts to things has been less than preferable, but I think in the long run, it's made me a much more easygoing person.
Well, that's good. You've obviously, sounds like you're a good coupling, and you've been able to learn from each other and also be able to support each other as well. So with your friends that are in the LGBTI community, like it sounds like you were brought up or you were surrounded by LGBTI friends that were brought up in a really easygoing environment from like how you described your schooling. So were they conflicting towards you when you went from being a lesbian to being in a straight relationship?
To be perfectly honest, my school friends, I hardly speak to any of them anymore. Just purely because they're school friends and we drifted apart. Once we stopped seeing each other 5 days a week, I think it's a very, very common story. Once we stopped seeing each other 5 days a week and being forced to sit in the same classroom together, we just didn't have all that much in common. I think that there's probably been people that I can think of, not that they've said anything to me, but there's people that I can think of that probably would have done a double take and had a little bit of judgment. The few people that I do still talk to, though, are very much like me in that they're open-minded both ways. If somebody says that, they're gay but they're dating a guy, or they're gay but they're dating a girl, like the kind of people that I choose to spend my time with or choose to put my energy into are the kind of people that would go, yeah, and what? Like, tell me something interesting. Like, I don't care, whatever. So, I think there's definitely people I can think of that have been in my life that might have had two words to say about it, but most people in my immediate circle really didn't even do a double take. They were just like, yeah, all right, whatever. What does that make you now? What do we call you? Like, do we need to change your pronouns? I'm like, no, it's got nothing to do with my gender, but sure. Yeah, I think I've been very lucky in the level of acceptance I've received from my little corner of the LGBTQI plus community. But in terms of the LGBT community as a whole, obviously you can't speak for a group of people. I can't speak for them as to how they feel as a whole around the world about me and about my life. But I think that, look, there are still gay people that don't believe bisexuality is real. There are still, transgender people that don't believe that gender fluidity is a thing. There's going to be levels of, ignorance or levels of just people not understanding other people in every community. Doesn't matter how open-minded you choose to be. There are people that you're not going to be able to be open-minded about. It's hard for somebody that is open-minded to be open-minded about somebody that is pro-life, like we were talking about before, or somebody that is very religious and believes in a higher power and believes that gay people are bad. Like, it's hard to be able to be open-minded and empathize to those people's ideas. And obviously, if those people are just out there believing those things and they're not actually doing anybody harm, then you should be open-minded and let them have their opinion. If, of course, they're doing harm and hurting people, then of course you should stand up. But it's the same if a bunch of gay people started killing straight people. I would not be okay with that. But it goes both ways. You've got to be open-minded to everybody. And I find that so hard. I find it so hard to be open-minded to stuff that I don't fully understand, like people that are really religious, people that are really, really pro-life and are like anti-abortion completely, like you can never ever do it no matter what, or like whatever it is. I find that hard. That's definitely something that I find hard to be open-minded about. So to bring it back to what you were asking, I think, yeah, there are definitely people that are not going to find it easy to understand or to be open-minded about my story, but that doesn't necessarily, mean that my story is not valid.
That's for sure. Well, it sounds like you are very open-minded. So in terms of bringing up Sterling, how So have you started telling him this difference with his mum and his dad, and how they're a little bit different to the usual parents of his friends? Or how would that go?
I mean, look, not really. He's not even 2. I mean, he doesn't even listen when we say no at this stage. He's very, very young, and it's not because I don't want to tell him because he's young. It's because he doesn't have the comprehension yet. But
Have you
I'm
Shane spoken about how you will deliver this to him when he's older, and how this,
we are big believers in complete transparency with him. To be perfectly honest, half of the children that he'll be friends with will probably be children of, 2 dads or 2 mums, or, whatever, adopted or whatever it might be. Like,
true.
We're pretty lucky to be bringing him up in a world where he will probably be abnormal for having a mum and a dad. Like, I don't know, I think I'm a big believer in, if he asks a question, I will answer it honestly. I particularly am a very sex positive person. So, I will be teaching him the real words for his genitals. I will be teaching him not PP, I will be teaching him penis. Like, I think it's important for kids to actually know their anatomy and to know, what part of their body is what. And yeah, so I think when it comes down to explaining, that his mum is a bit different from some mums, and our relationship's a little bit different, and, we didn't get married first, or whatever it might be. Like, if he asks, we'll tell him, and then when he's old enough, we can sit him down and give him the whole story. It can be like Game of Thrones night. Like, I don't care.
You could just show him the podcast. It'd be on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just show him the podcast.
Just
Sounds
watch
good.
this, son. So just to close out before we go, last question. What would you like to share with people to think about or to consider in terms of young mums and people and considering other people with their sexuality or their own?
Well, in terms of young mums, there is a lot of judgment out there, which is strange, considering that, all biology points to about 22 being the best time to have a baby for a female. It's strange that we as a community judge, women and men that choose to have a child young, or don't choose and just happen to have a child young. It's strange that we do judge them, but, I've faced judgment. I've got dirty looks, mums at daycare, and I think, something for older mums who've done it the way that is normal now, have a mum in your 30s. I think, take a minute. If you're feeling like you're looking at someone that is a young mum and thinking, how can they possibly be mature enough, all this stuff, whatever it might be, the judgment that comes across your mind when you see someone that, might be 16 and have a baby, like, look at them and go, think about how much your mindset and your priorities changed when you gave birth to your child. Just because somebody's 16 doesn't mean their mindset's not going to change when they have a child. My mindset completely changed, and I went from smoking an entire pack of cigarettes in about, 2 days and doing cocaine in the bathroom. Like, I went from that to clean, sober, apart from an occasional wine, and I would consider myself a good mother. And I think the fact of the matter is that you can't judge anybody just at looking at them and going, oh, I've seen 16 and pregnant, or I've seen teen mum and they're useless and they're relying on their mothers and they're a burden on society. Because at the end of the day, that person could have pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and made it work. And I think you need to, if anything, ask them about their story, because you're not allowed, you shouldn't be allowed to judge people for, but you should at least be able to, know a little bit more about their story before you can pass any judgment at all. So if anything, you should ask that person, that mum or that young family or that young dad, to go and get a coffee and tell me, how did you become a parent at 17 or whatever it might be? And talk to people. Don't be afraid to actually ask people stories, because
Instead
9
of
times out of
judging
10
them.
they'll be like me. Yeah, 9 times out of 10 they'll be like me and they'll want to talk about themselves.
And you want a free coffee.
Totally. Free coffee. Yeah. And I mean, look, when it comes to the sexuality thing, I think, look, anyone that is needing to come out now, if you're not living or whatever in a place where you feel like you will be accepted when you come out, then you need to get out of there. Like, you need to be, we're lucky to live in a world where there are places like Melbourne, Australia, where you can find people that are going to be accepting of you no matter what. And I think if that's a couple of $1,000s for a plane ticket or a couple of $100s for a train ticket or whatever it might be for you to get here, come here, because, there are going to be people here or in San Francisco in America that are going to accept you and love you for who you are. And as much as it might be scary to uproot your life and go somewhere else, I don't think that anybody should be stuck in a small town or in a country where they're not accepted and feel like they have to stay there because of family, friends, whatever like that. Because at the end of the day, if somebody's not accepting you, if they're telling you that you're wrong or that who you are is wrong, then they're not your friend and they're not your family. They might be a blood relative, but they're not your family. The family is people that you choose and that choose you and that love you no matter what. And if you don't have that and you feel like you're going to be judged for coming out and you're going to be disowned for coming out, get out of there. That's my only advice.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. I've never heard it on that sort of on that lens before. So yeah, I think that's really smart. Like, I wish now when I was younger that I had moved to be able to be free, that's for sure. Well, thanks so much for your time. Love that you're my first guest. Thanks for being so open and sharing really really sensitive topics, I think. So yeah, hopefully, like, we've just had our new subscriber Gilly who was like, oh, you're talking about sexuality, I'm bisexual. So yeah, it's obviously something that's interesting for people, and it's something that's not talked about enough, probably most likely in the straight community, that's for sure. So really appreciate you sharing that and sharing it sounds like you really have a genuine love for your partner. So, I hope that everyone can experience this for themselves as well. And good luck with your endeavors with studying and your goals with becoming a midwife and moving to New Zealand. It's everyone's dream to be.
Thank you.
In the country of mountains and green things. So I'll say goodbye. I'll probably get you to hang up because I'm not sure what to do on this end. So we'll see you soon.
Maybe I just leave. I think if I just click leave.
See you, Charli.
Bye, babe. Thank you so much.
Bye. Have a good one.